Okay, so today I'm going to start a new series on this channel where I review some of my followers' worlds and then I'm going to rank them and give them a score out of 50. So let me just quickly explain how this is going to work. So I'm going to review 3 people's worlds in each video. I was going to do 5, but that's just going to be too long for each video, so I'm going to do 3 instead. So if I have checked out your world and it's not in this video, it will be in the next one. So each person will show me around the world and show me all of the projects that they've got. And then I'm going to rank it out of 10 in 5 different categories. So the first one is aesthetics. So this is just all about how the world looks and how all of the different projects look. It doesn't matter if they're functional or not, it's just about how they actually look. Number 2 is the scale of the projects. So someone who's built much bigger projects on their world is going to score higher in this category. Number 3 is completion. So you might have some really nice looking builds that are huge, so you're going to score high in the first 2 categories, but if they're not complete, that's going to bring the marks down quite a lot for the 3rd category. Number 4 is progression. So this is kind of harder to rank than the other categories, but this is just about how far you've come on the world, how many different projects you've done, how many different useful farms you've got and stuff like that. And number 5 is creativity. So this is just all about how unique and creative you are with your world. Are you building stuff that I've never seen done before? Or are you just copying what everyone else has done on YouTube already? And there's 2 things that I quickly want to say. So the first thing is I want it to be near impossible to get a perfect 10 in a category. Like I want to save that for if someone blows me away with something that they've done. So to get a perfect 10 you have to do extremely well in that category. And the other thing I want to say is that the only way to keep this fair is if I'm honest with every single review. So if I don't think you've progressed very far on your world, I'm going to give you a low score. If I don't think you're being very creative, I'll give you a low score. And that's not me trying to be rude or anything, I do just want to keep the list as honest as possible and that keeps it fair. And over time I'll keep track of all of the different people that I've reviewed and we can have a little leaderboard. Okay, let's get straight into it with the first world that I reviewed. And this is a world by a guy called Normal Content. And this is actually the person who gave me the idea for the series. He just messaged me and asked me if I'd check out his world. And I decided that I wanted to check it out. And then I thought of this series afterwards. So I thought it was only fair that I reviewed his world first for this series. You'll see here that we go inside a village house. And this is actually the entrance to the base. So it drops down into a little bit of a furnace area that you saw there. And then you follow this end stone around to a little enchanting area. There's not really too much going on here. I did look in the chest and there's a bunch of enchanted books in there. That's just a little starter enchanting setup. Into the next room he had a little bit of a trophy setup going on. So you can see that he's got the dragon egg, a few beacons around, some skulk. He's also got some dragon heads and the disc from the ancient cities, I forget what that's called. Yeah, there's just a few trophies he's got there. Into the next room he has a storage room. And I actually had to go into this chest to get some food, otherwise I was going to starve to death. He seemed okay with it, so it's not stealing if he's okay with it. Next up we go down into the villager setup. I'm not really too sure he knows how to set these up properly, they don't seem to have any workstations or beds. And 2 of them have sunk into the floor for some reason. So I'm not really too sure what he's going for with this villager setup here. The next room was just an empty room. I did find out later that he wanted to add another storage room here. I don't know why he wants the storage room so far apart. I personally would make one big one instead of 2 smaller ones, but this was his choice. And moving on into the next room, I did actually like this room. There's a lot of quartz, but I think it looks a little bit nicer than the other rooms. I'm not really too sure what this room is. It seems to be a mixture of a brewing setup and a storage room. And I did look into the valuables chest here just to see what was going on. And he has 43 diamond blocks, which is quite impressive. And then through the piston doors onto the other side, he's got this big room full of calcite. I'm not sure what this is for and it doesn't look finished. But yeah, he's got a full room of calcite. There's a nice sugarcane farm here and it's not automated. And I saw this lever, just as I clicked it, it actually disconnected me from the world. But I did manage to join back, and he pressed the lever. It actually opens a little bit of a secret room back here with some cows for some reason. It seems a little bit of a strange place to hide your cows, and I didn't really notice at the time, but I looked back at the footage afterwards, and the room is designed so that the floor is the grass, the roof is the sky, and then there's some trees in the wall, which I thought was quite nice. And that's actually the end of the tour. I did have another quick look around some of the projects just to see if I missed anything, but that was everything, so now we can get into the ranking. Okay, so let me start off by saying that in the future I don't really want to review worlds like this one. So he actually told me afterwards that he's only had the world for 2 or 3 weeks, and he's actually completely stopped playing on the world now and he's started a new one. And I just don't want to review worlds like this again in the future because it's kind of unfair. Like, you haven't put too much time into this world, you're not going to get a high score. And it would be much more interesting to look at worlds that people have had for maybe like 5 or 6 months up to a few years, like ones I review later in this episode. So I can say right now that this world is not going to score very highly, and it wouldn't surprise me if it stays at the bottom of the leaderboards for a long time. And I've already told him this, he seems to be okay with it. It's not his fault or anything, I just didn't ask him how long he's had the world or anything before joining. And he did give me the idea to do this series, so I thought it's only fair to review his world first. But with that being said, I will get into the rankings. So for aesthetics, I went for 2. I don't really think I can score him much higher in the aesthetics when most of the builds were built with a single block. He did try to mix it up a little bit with some of the rooms made of stone, some of them made of stone bricks, some of them made of quartz. But overall, each room was made out of a single block for the most part, and I really don't think that looks very nice, so for aesthetics, I'm going to have to rank him a 2. For the scale of the build, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give him the lowest score of a 1. As I said, it is pretty much a starter base. The base is not very big, the rooms are kind of small. There's no like huge build on the outside either, he just went into a villager house. So for the scale, I am going to have to rank it a 1. For completion, I'm going to rank him a 3. So even though the base was kind of small, he didn't have too many of the projects complete, but there did seem to be a few of the rooms that were finished. Even though they were kind of small, they were finished, so for completion, I'm going to give him a 3. For progression, I'm going to give him a 2. As it is a starter base, there's really not too much progression there. There's not any automated farms either. They had a few farms in there, but they all looked manual. He did kill the dragon, so that ranks him up a little bit higher. He also had netherite gear, but in terms of the world progression, there really wasn't too much there. And for creativity, it's going to have to be a 2 again. As I mentioned before, all of the rooms were built with a single block, and I just don't think that is very creative. So I am going to have to score him quite low on creativity as well. So overall, that works out at 10 out of a possible 50. And the good thing is that he's actually first on the leaderboard at the moment. I don't think that's going to last very long, but he is definitely first for the moment. So he's got that going for him. And as I mentioned already, I have already told him that he's not going to score very highly in the series. And he does seem to be okay with that, so that's good. And I am grateful that he gave me the idea for this series as well. Okay, moving on to the next world. This is a world by Kevin. And I actually don't know how many days old this world is at the moment, but I will ask him and I'll put it on the screen if I find out. But anyway, I loaded into the world and I saw a gold farm here and then there was another farm next to it. We didn't really look into these, so I'm not sure what this was. Yeah, there's just a few little farms at the spawn that I didn't really look at, but he gave me some gear so I could gear up and then we looked around. So the first thing we got to is this little street here. As we go through and look at the different projects, you'll see how good this guy is at building. This was just the first thing I saw, and I just think this looks so nice, and I think this is actually quite a recent build because if you look around the back, he's got a load of the chiseled bookshelves, which only got added in 1.20, and I reviewed this not long after that came out. So this must be quite a recent build, but I did try to get an aerial view. It's kind of hard when you're lagging around a little bit. But I did get an aerial view and you can see that he didn't finish the back of it, so that's going to rank him down a little bit towards the end. You will notice, as nice as his builds are, there is quite a lot of unfinished ones around. But anyway, next up I flew over to this village here. I thought these hot air balloons were really nice. I've got some hot air balloons on my world, but these put mine to shame. These are so much better than mine. And it's just a quick aerial view of this village here before I actually land inside and look around. And it looks like he's put way more time and effort into this village here than he did into the street that we looked at first. So I don't really know what to say about this. I wish I could build like this, but I will never be able to build this good. Like, all the little details he's got going on, it's just amazing. I don't really know what else to say, so I'm just going to be quiet and I'm just going to show you some clips of me walking around, because there's just so much going on here, there's no way I can talk about all of it. So that's enough of the village for now. He asked me to fly over to these coordinates to meet him, and I saw these two floating islands, and at first I wasn't really too sure what these were. But it turns out that this first one here is an iron farm. I'm not 100% sure where the villages are or how it's working, but this is an iron farm, and I like how he's disguised it with a floating island. Like, a lot of people don't bother doing anything with their iron farms, they just leave it open. But he's actually tried to disguise it. And the next floating island, which seems to be a cherry blossom theme, and I just think it all looks amazing overall. It's got some kind of big house building on top of this as well. And I just think the landscaping looks amazing, the build looks amazing. And it turns out that this is a creeper farm. So he's actually going to take me to the inside of the farm here. And I love his attention to detail. Like, right here on the entrance, he's got a ladder made out of the new hanging signs. And that's just a little detail most people wouldn't even realise if you didn't put it there. Like, it's such a small detail, but I think it adds quite a lot just adding it there. But anyway, we got to the inside. I had a quick look at the creeper farm. I didn't look at the farm itself, but you can see the drop chute here and the killing chamber. And then I just had a little bit of a look around at what else is going on. And again, I love the little bits of detail he's got, like right here with the logs coming down as support beams. And he's put some buttons and signs around them. And similar to the little ladder that he's got, he could have just not put that there and no one would really notice. But he's added the extra little details and I think it adds quite a lot to the build. But anyway, we headed back out of the creeper farm and I had a look around up above. And I just think this build is amazing overall, just like the other builds that he's got back near the spawn. Unfortunately, there's no inside or anything like that, but I'm sure that's where the creeper farm's actually built, so he couldn't do much with the interior anyway. But I had a look around, I tried to get some different views from some different angles, just so you could see it all in the video. It's kind of difficult when I'm lagging about and flying, but I tried to do my best to get some different angles. But anyway, once I'd had a decent look around the creeper farm and got all the footage that I thought I needed, I headed back over to the village that I checked out. And I looked at the interiors and most of them are just full of junk. He's not actually done any of the interiors here. It's all just full of chests or just completely empty. So this is going to affect the ranking when I do it in a second because he's not actually completed these builds over here. And this is quite a big part of his world that he's not completed. But anyway, I just had one final look from up above just so you can see the scale of this overall. And now I'm going to get into the ranking. Okay, so let's get straight into it. The first category, the aesthetics. I really don't think we're going to find too many worlds which have better aesthetics than this. But I do think it is possible, so I'm going to rank this an 8 out of 10, which is very high. So to get a 9 or a 10, it's going to have to completely blow me away. And this was actually quite close. I think he would have got a 9 if he had the interiors done as well for most of his builds. But because he only had the exteriors and a lot of it was unfinished, I feel like I can't really give him a 9 or a 10. So I'm going to have to give him an 8 for aesthetics. Next up is the scale. So I've decided to go for a 6 for this. So there is some pretty big builds there, like the creeper farm on the floating island, and the village area is pretty big as well. But there is bigger builds on other people's worlds that I've seen, so I'm going to rank this a 6 out of 10. Next up is the completion. Unfortunately, most of his builds were incomplete. I think it was only the creeper farm that was fully complete. The rest of the things that I viewed all seem to need more work on them. So I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10, just because, like I said, I can't score him too high if most of his stuff is incomplete. Next up is progression. And as I mentioned earlier, this one is kind of hard to judge. But I'm going to be basing it mostly on automation and how many farms someone has. Like, someone who is more progressed on a world is going to have a lot of automated farms and other projects. And this guy had some amazing builds, but he didn't really have too many automated farms from what I saw. He did have the creeper farm and the iron farm. There was a gold farm at the start, which I got a quick glance of. But overall, there were not too many automated farms that I saw. So I'm going to have to rank it down a little bit for progression. And again, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. And finally is the creativity. So this guy is extremely creative with his builds. You see a lot of village builds and stuff like that. Like myself, I'm building one in my world, but this guy was very creative with his stuff and his little attention to details. I thought all the world was very creative, but as creative as it was, I feel like it can't get higher than a 7, just because you have seen these things before. Like, everyone has seen a floating island before, and everyone has seen a village before. Even though this guy did it very well and he put his own spin on the builds, you have seen it before, so I don't think it could rank higher than a 7. So that's what I'm going to give him for that. So if my maths is correct, that works out at 29 points out of a possible 50. And I will be interested to see how long he's had this world. To do something like this, I'd expect it to take at least a year and a half. So I'd be interested to see if he's had it longer or less than that. But anyway, 29 out of 50 puts him currently in first place. Of course, there's only been 2 worlds reviewed at the moment, but 29 is a very respectable score. I know that I said I was going to review 3 worlds per episode, but I think 2 is going to be enough for this one. I've reviewed a few more worlds, but the next one is so big it's probably going to take up an entire episode itself. So I'm just going to do 2 for today, and then I'll do 1 in the next episode, and then I've got a few more that I've already checked out as well. So if I did check out your world and it wasn't in this video, I am going to try to get round to editing the next video as soon as possible, and I'll try to get them out pretty soon. I've just not really had too much time lately, so I know I checked out these worlds months ago now, but I've only just got round to having the time to do the editing for them. And if you want me to look at your world in the future and do a review on it, I will be posting something on Discord over the next few months. I'll ask who wants me to check out your world and I'll pick a few. So I won't be doing it just yet. You don't need to comment on this video saying that you want me to check out your world. But if you check out my Discord, which should be linked in the description, I will ask on there at some point and I will choose a few people from there. So that's all for today. I know it's a little bit of a different video, but I hope everyone enjoyed anyway. And I will be posting the next Let's Play video over the next week. So I know I've not posted that for a while, so I'm going to be getting back to uploading the Let's Play as well. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.